Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of the Clinic Growth Secrets Show. This is your host, Jeff EK, bringing you another edition. Excited for this one. I'm going to talk about 5 things that you need to ask your marketing agency. And if you're not working with a marketing agency, 5 things you need to ask possible vendors to make sure that you don't get caught with your pants down. Okay. So, before we get into it, remember to pay the fee. If you guys get value from today's episode, please share the show. We do grow organically by word of mouth around here. That means that we do not rely on any sort of sponsorships or promotions or paid ads to get our word out there. We have been helping chiropractors, functional medicine doctors, spinal decompression, neuropathy docs add more patients and profits over the last 5 years. And as we continue to grow our mission, we don't want to get limited by what we can and cannot say on the show. So we do grow organically. So if you get value, pay it forward, share the show. And if not, don't share it. That's how it works. Value exchange. So we're going to talk about 5 things that you need to ask your digital agency. Okay. Now, before we get into it, context on the show, or context on today's episode, rather, is that I have personally probably taken, last time I did the math, probably about 1,400 calls with DCs and related professionals over the last 5 years. Okay. And in that time, I have seen patterns, and many of those patterns relate to marketing underperforming. Okay, so many people invest in a marketing agency and then it doesn't perform. And then what ends up happening is instead of blaming the agency, they actually blame the traffic source, Facebook, Instagram, Google, right? And so I want to make sure that those platforms pretty much always do their job. They pretty much always show your message to somebody. And now the question is whether is it getting shown to the right person or the wrong person. So today we're going to talk about 5 things that you need to ask your digital agency to make sure that your message is received to them, and also that you have the best chance of getting in front of the right patient for your business. Okay. So 5 things to ask your agency. Number 1 is, how do we know that it's working? What makes this successful? What are our KPIs? What are we tracking? Yes, we're probably tracking cost per lead, but what else are we tracking? Are we tracking all the way down to customer acquisition cost? Okay. What's going to make this successful? Is it video views? Maybe. Is it comments? Is it patients in the door? What makes this successful in terms of the agency's viewpoint? You want to ask them that, because if their definition of successful is misaligned with yours, that's going to be a problem. So we want to make sure that our definitions of success are similar, if not the exact same, before we get into any sort of relationship. Okay. So how will we know when this is working? What will those look like as you reflect to me? And then what am I going to reflect to you? Okay, it's one of the best questions that you can ask, because without that question being fully answered, you run the risk of being not on the same page from the start. Okay. The second question is, when it's not working, how will we fix it? Okay. That is the second best question to ask, because there are some markets, as somebody who does this for a living, there are some markets that just work really well. Okay. You put the ad up, the ad rips, it gets a lot of leads at a low cost. The leads answer their phone, the leads show up in the door, and it just works. However, that is few and far between. Okay. So we need to know what happens when it's not working. How are we going to interpret the data? How are we going to decide where in the system that it's broken? Is it a marketing problem in terms of getting leads at good costs that are relevant to the business? Or is it a sales problem? Getting them on the phone, selling them services? How are we going to know when it's not working what to do next? Okay. So that second question is identification of the main bottleneck in the business. So how are we going to mutually, on a week over week basis, identify the bottleneck and fix it? Okay. And what actions are you going to do, the agency, to help me fix the problem? Okay. Because at the end of the day, the agency is the trusted advisor. If your agency is not your trusted advisor, then you're relying on somebody to market a huge part of your business that doesn't know what to do when the going gets hard, and that can be very challenging. Okay. The third is, what do you need from me? So you need to be asking your agency, what do you need from me in order to make this successful? Because there's a lot of sketchiness in the marketing agency business. Okay. I try to eliminate all of that inside of our programs at Clinic Growth Accelerator. But here's what you'll find is that sometimes when an agency fails to meet their numbers, they will blame you. Oh, you just didn't call the leads quick enough. Oh, you weren't good at sales. Oh, your team wasn't good on the phone. They'll blame you somehow. Okay. So you want to make sure that you can't be blamed. Okay. So what do you need? A lot of agencies will need certain new patient hours so they can get people to book. They'll need you to submit content every single month so that they can keep your ads fresh. They made you need to do, excuse me, they may need you to do weekly reviews. See, I can tell I'm passionate about this because my brain is going faster than my mouth. They may need you to do weekly reviews with them. Okay. So what are your requirements as the doctor, as the owner of your business, in terms of what you have to deliver to the agency? Because it is a collaborative partnership. No one's just going to set up ads and you're never going to talk to them again and you're going to get a huge business. That's just not how it works. Gone are the days of this set and forget strategy. So we need to be asking them, like, how many photos are you going to need from me? How many videos are you going to need? Like, how's the quality of photos need to be? Like, what position should I use? These are all good things as it relates to even the content segment. Okay. So what do you need? Okay. The three basics are patient times, content, and follow-up systems. And if you ask those things and you can't deliver on what you were expected to deliver on, you probably shouldn't explore that relationship. Okay. If they ask you to make calls and you don't have the bandwidth in your practice to make the calls, probably should sign up with those guys, right? Because that is just not what you can make sense of. And no matter what, it's not going to work because we cannot allocate the correct man hours and labor to make this work. That'd be one example. Okay. Number 4, the question is, how do I know when to pull the plug? How do we know when it's over? How do we know that we've given it our shot and that we just can't expect any more fruit from this particular vehicle? Is that something that the agency is going to tell you? Is that something that you're going to determine? What happens if it's determined too soon and we don't let it play out? What happens if it's determined too late and we burn a bunch of money? What's that happy medium? Got to ask that. Okay. And then finally, a lot of these first 4 or 5 questions have all been a little bit on the quote negative side when things aren't working or maybe unsuccessful, if you will. But what about this last one? When it does work, how do we scale it? Another great question. Okay. If you're spending $1 and getting 3, then and you can maintain that at scale, then hypothetically you would spend $1 million a month because you know for sure you'd get 3 million back. Every person on the show would do that, right? You would spend $1 million if you knew you were going to get 3 million back. Okay. You'd spend $1 if you knew you were going to get $3 back. So if it does work, how do we scale it while still maintaining similar levels of return? What I mean by that is that, hey, let's say you're spending $4,000 a month right now and you're getting 12. You're getting the 3-to-1. Okay. Would it be possible to maintain a 3-to-1 return if you were spending $10,000 a month? Quite possibly. How would that look? Right? Those are questions we have to ask because those are answers that we have to look to the future here. Okay. So just signing up with an agency is not going to make you rich. Okay. You signing that line is not going to make you rich. In fact, you're going to have to allocate money before you get any back. And the truth is that if you don't ask these 5 questions or similar questions, you're not going to get the money back. And if you do, you have a great market. But for a lot of you guys listening, you have tougher markets. And it's going to require you to know what the agency's approach is in terms of fixing the problems, identifying the bottlenecks. What are you expected to do? We have to know all these things in order for us to fully pull the trigger with confidence. Because if we can't even define what success looks like mutually, it's going to be one hell of a relationship. Okay. So those are 5 things to ask your digital agency. In summary, number 1 is, how do we know it's working? 2 is, what if it's not working? What do we do? Number 3 is, what do you need from me as the owner, as the business who you're helping market? Number 4 is, how do we know when to pull the plug? So making sure we pull it in an efficient manner, not bleed a bunch of money. And number 5 is, when it works, how do we scale it? So if it's bad, how do we make it good? And if it's good, how do we make it great? Those are questions we have to ask. Okay. So if that's helpful, guys, if you're exploring a new agency relationship, those are some things to consider. If you'd love to take a look at our accelerator program to see if we may possibly be able to help you out, we run a 90-day program for chiropractors and the like. We help with chiropractic spinal decompression, neuropathy, laser, shockwave, anything you're looking to get out there, we can certainly help with. That's a shameless plug for the show. Remember, we don't run ads. We don't run paid ads, but every once in a while, we get to talk about things we really enjoy, which is helping our docs scale. Okay. So if you guys have any questions on these, please let me know. I hope it was valuable. Send this to somebody who might be in a little bit of a terrible agency relationship and they're looking to get out. Maybe they want to vet their next vendor, or maybe somebody who's just getting started with an agency that they want to make sure they maximize the relationship. Send this over to them and they can definitely ask the right questions to get better results. We'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.